Hello and welcome to another presentation from In the Money Media. I'm Mikee P, Mike Pribozie and we're doing something new for the In the Money YouTube channel. Leading up to the Kentucky Derby, we're bringing in some connections and doing some interviews, especially for the horses that are on the trail. Well, no bigger thrust to the Triple Crown Trail this week than Ethan West, who's a 32-year-old trainer that typically races around Turfway Park. Ethan, welcome to the In the Money YouTube channel.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I greatly appreciate it.
And you're a young guy, and you're the trainer of Chunk of Gold, who I was quite fond of for the big stake at Fairgrounds this past weekend. Ran a big race and has dropped you onto the Derby scene just out of nowhere.
No, for sure. He definitely stepped up to the test and handled it well. And like you said, he's thrust us into the spotlight of it.
Yeah, and lots of big interviews this week. I saw a couple articles, especially the one Kevin Kirstein wrote for you. Just kind of talking about your start into the game and what you're doing right now, how many horses you have, things like that. And you've been doing this since what, 2018? It seems like you've done very well all along. Really have had quite a success, but this is probably the biggest horse you've ever had.
Yeah, for sure, especially when it comes to the spotlight deal. I didn't grow up in racing necessarily. It wasn't like a family business by any means. My grandparents did it as a hobby. And then my brother started getting into it. And then as the little brother, I had to do whatever he was doing. So I followed him around, and we both started on the ground and, worked my way up from walking hots and cleaning stalls to hustling horses out of the receiving barn at Hoosier Park as a kid, and then to galloping and assistant training, and now training on my own.
Yeah, I think I was listening to the Steve Big Show, and they were mentioning your name, and you're one to get on your horses in the morning. Is that correct?
Correct. I do. I gallop a lot of them.
Yeah, so I'm sure that gives you quite a bit of insight, especially to just how they're doing, their conditions, maybe things that are bothering them. I mean, quite the perspective there to be able to get on the back of the horse and really have a good feel for them.
It is. I always joke around, like, if I didn't gallop, I don't know if I could train horses because it's too boring. I enjoy riding horses. I mean, that is truly my favorite part of the job. I gallop not necessarily every set in the morning, but I'm out there quite a bit of them.
Yeah, and I mean that's certainly a fantastic perspective. What got you in on that side of the game? Just something that you were interested in,
I wanted to try it, and then my brother started fooling around with horses when he was in high school, and he's too big to ride, and I was still really small in high school, and then he had a couple babies, and me and a couple 2-year-olds, we all learned together.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the big horse here, the Chunk of Gold. Obviously, a couple, starts at Turfway to get going. Broke the maiden well first time out. Certainly didn't take a lot of money in that race, but looked good doing it. So much so that you put him in a listed stakes to follow that. And for me, that's where he definitely caught my eye. Had a pretty tough trip, I thought, in that spot. Was a little green, but certainly was running forward late. So just talk about his start and really, what made you think that he was ready for the next level?
His first start, he was on the rail. He ran really green that race. He kind of broke in a little bit, the temporary rail. He shied from it, broke back out. But he settled down the backside and underneath horses. And then him and I think it was Michelle Lovell's horse, those two kind of drew away from the field, and they duked it out all the way down the lane, and we got the upper hand on the outside. But he got a pretty good number out of that. And then going into his next race, the Leonidas really wasn't our target. I mean, it was on our radar, but with all the cancellations we had with the cold weather, the Leonidas was our best shot with it to run. We were aiming for an allowance race. It was the week after, and with all the snow we were getting, we got a little nervous. Like, well, maybe that allowance race isn't going to go. We're going to be stuck waiting another couple of weeks. So we just said hell with it, and we gave him the opportunity, and he stepped up to the plate big time.
Now, he's, obviously, it didn't cost very much money. I mean, he's listed in the program that he cost $2,500. So now looking at his family, he does have a full sister that was quite the racehorse. So was there issues there that he brought such a little, amount to start?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I didn't even hear about the horse till the 1st of October. owners called and said, "Hey, we got this 2-year-old we want to send you." I said, "Okay, whenever you guys are ready, send him in." And then I got him mid Keeneland and galloped him at Keeneland for a couple of weeks before we brought him back to Turfway at the end of the meet.
Now, did you think, obviously, I mean, you're getting on the back of the horse. So was this a horse that you thought showed a lot of talent early? A horse that maybe would break his maiden, but it'd be something that would be precocious?
Honestly, I was fond of him.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't at first. I wasn't as high on him as I have been other babies, but one of my riders, actually, he's a jockey as well, Victor LeBron, was galloping him quite regularly, and he kept telling me every day, "This is the best 2-year-old you got. I'm telling you, this is the best one you've got." And he was very high on him very early, and he's actually his breeze rider, and he's the one that kind of preps him for everything.
Well, and you got a couple nice races on synthetic, but I think I did hear that maybe there would be a chance you wouldn't get into the Battaglia race, and you ended up at Fairgrounds for the Risen Star. Obviously, a big number there, 42-1. But there were questions. Did you think that he could, take to the dirt? What were your thoughts going in?
My brain was everywhere. I mean, there were a ton of questions. He has a 12-hour ship. We've never shipped him that far. He's never gone that far. He's never run on the dirt before. Was he going to handle all that? It was a huge step up in class from a little overnight stake at Turfway to a graded stake at the Fairgrounds. The dirt, if you look way back, he has a couple breezes at Laurel Park, and they were all very respectable time-wise. Then once we got down there and I galloped him on the track Thursday, Friday, I loved how he moved. He moves so much more fluent than he does across the synthetic, and that gave me a little bit of confidence. And truthfully, once we got down there, he handled everything with class. I mean, he never missed an oat. He never got turned over by anything. I mean, he was just calm, cool, collected the whole trip. I couldn't have asked him to handle things any better, and that gave me a little bit of hope as well. The only test we had was if he was good enough to run against that class of horse.
Talk about the race itself, because you started and you had to make a different call with the jockey, and you got Loveberry up to ride the horse. Obviously, I did read some articles with him, and you guys conferred and talked about the horse and the trip. It was I thought a decent trip, but he did have to stop at the top of the stretch, so it wasn't without some adversity, but he was certainly flying late in the lane.
He was, when we had to switch to Loveberry, I was more than confident with him. Him and I go all the way back to Mountaineer days together. So, we've had a long relationship. Both our families are really close. So I didn't lose any confidence there by any means. And I thought he gave him the perfect trip, tucked right down in there on the rail. And even Jared said he was running down the backside a little immature still. So he's still got a little bit growing up to do. And when we come to the top of the lane, East Avenue got in our way when he was starting to stop, and Jared had to reroute course, and he ducked to the rail. And for a young horse to overcome that and push through, I thought it was very impressive. And I'm a little biased, but I thought he pressed on and finished up real well.
Yeah, and he's definitely an up and coming horse. Well, now you have options, right? I mean, obviously he's proven that he likes the turfway surface. There's plenty of spots he could show up in. So I know obviously we're making sure the horse is healthy, but you maybe need a few more Derby points. Where are you thinking?
It's still up in the air. I mean, we've tossed around, running out of our own stall and aiming towards a Jeff Ruby. We talked about shipping back down to New Orleans. There's the Virginia Derby coming up in a few weeks. There's tons of options for him yet, and we haven't narrowed it down yet.
Yeah, plenty of options for him. And, he's certainly, I do think, especially now, like with Magnitude, now he basically ran a hole through the wind there, but now, he's off the trail. So, and there's and there always is every year. You have to get there. You have to get to the dance to be able to win it. So, the idea is to stay healthy, put them in the right spots, because, if you're not in the gate, you can't win.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, obviously I've never been in this kind of position before, but looking at it, it's, half the battle's getting there, then the other half's running competitive in the race. So it's tough to balance that. It's, we want him to have enough points to get in, but we don't want to completely zap him going into the Derby either. If we do get enough points, it's and that's kind of what we've got to weigh our options here. It's, well, do we run out of our own stall and maybe pick up a few less points, or if we ship back down to New Orleans? And I think our shot's better down there on the dirt with the extra distance, but it's also 24 hours ship down and back, and how much is that going to take out of him doing it again? So there's, like I said, there's a lot to weigh on it before we make up our mind where we're going to head.
Well, we talked about this horse. Just to give us a little insight to your barn now. Like, how many horses do you have? I know you're mostly, out of Turfway Park. How's things going otherwise for you?
It's going well. We started off Turfway really, really strong, especially compared to years past. We've always been a little weak here, but, we had a really solid meet in December. I was really happy with it. Right after the first of the year, we kicked it off with a couple good winners. And then obviously he runs second in the stake. That was huge. We keep 20, 25 horses throughout the winter. Through the summer, we pick up a few more usually once spring and summer racing gets here. And like Indiana, we usually keep some Indiana breds in training. At Turfway, that is home base. Last year, we did have a string up at Indiana as well, but Turfway is what we consider home. It's a great place to get these horses prepped. It's this new track they have here. There's been some nice horses come off of it, and it seems like you can develop the young ones pretty well off of it.
And the purses in Kentucky really don't hurt, do they? I mean, with the KTDF and a lot of things going on, I think racing's thriving in Kentucky. I mean, there's questions other places in the country certainly, but Kentucky, there's no question that horse racing is going to go there.
Oh, absolutely. And at Turfway, we kind of have the best of both worlds because we're still tied into the Kentucky circuit. We're, an hour from Keeneland, an hour and a half from Churchill. Ellis is a little farther when they're running there, but it's not like we're tied there. We're not stable at Churchill, so we're not obligated to run at Churchill. We ship all over the place. We go Presque Isle, Colonial, Ohio. I mean, we've shipped as far as Texas, Louisiana, clearly. We've run in Maryland. I mean, wherever we need to ship to, we can. It's not like we're tied to just Kentucky in the summer.
Well, Ethan, really great to catch up with you. I read in, Kevin's article, it seems like you have a big family. So I'm sure the family will be on for the ride. What do the kids think? What's the family thinking right now with everything going on?
No, they're all fired up, especially my oldest. I mean, he's a huge racing fan and usually helps me out a lot in the barn. And, I mean, hell, he's just as excited, if not more excited than I am.
Well,
so
I think
it's the whole family's pumped up for it, and just knock on wood that we can keep him healthy and happy and pick up a few more points and get us to the big dance.
Yeah, and definitely rooting for you. You got a lot of sharp guys that really liked your horse. I know. I mean, I guess I would consider myself a sharp guy. I like him, but I'm not sure if you saw the Randy Moss tweet, but he was interested in your horse also. I'm just putting it up on the screen here. But, he was interested in your horse, for a 30-1 shot. He put that out on Twitter before the race. So, lots of sharp guys thought your horse had a big chance, and he certainly delivered in the race. I wish you continued success. It's really great to meet you. And hopefully, if you continue on the road, we'll get you back here soon.
Awesome. Well, hey, I sure do appreciate you having me on here. It was nice catching up with you.
And this has been a production of In the Money Media. Jump on that YouTube channel. Check out some of the other coverage. We'll see you guys next time.